Hello and welcome to this short video on the theme of violence in Macbeth and how violence breeds violence. In other words, leads to further bloodshed. And we can read Macbeth as an attack on the warrior culture in Scotland. And this is a warning to King James, who has come from Scotland, was King of Scotland, and Shakespeare's warning him not to become a violent king towards his own people. So we can look back in recent memory and see how Henry VIII was incredibly violent towards his own people, persecuting the Catholics, disbanding the monasteries. That sounds quite innocuous, doesn't it? But what it meant is he actually destroyed the properties, executed loads of monks. A really, really violent time, and it's in living memory for most people, or it's handed down from only a couple of generations before. So we get these quotations. By killing Duncan, Macbeth says, we teach bloody instruction. So by killing the king, we simply teach everyone else it's okay to kill kings, and this then leads to them deciding to kill Macbeth. But so this is an idea that Shakespeare is introducing to please King James. He's saying, don't kill a king because it will backfire on you and someone will simply kill you. You'll get the prize of kingship, but it simply won't last. Look at what happened to Macbeth. But it's also a warning to King James, do not become a tyrannical and bloodthirsty ruler, because you've got to remember the Gunpowder plot happened only the year before in 1605, and you would expect King James to react violently against this attack, not only on his life, but many of the nobility and the government. The idea is also brought up in this idea, this quotation, blood will have blood, they say, says Macbeth. Now, normally, blood will have blood means that you kill somebody and they therefore seek revenge. And that leads to further bloodshed, an endless cycle of revenge. But Shakespeare's going deeper here, because when Macbeth says it, he's talking about him killing further people. In other words, the taste of blood, if you like, use that metaphor, has led to him acquiring a taste for more blood, to develop the metaphor. So actually, once you start killing, it's very, very difficult to stop. And that again is a warning to King James. Yes, you might execute a couple of traitors, but you will end up executing dozens of traitors and then perhaps killing people without putting them through a trial, even a show trial, and executing them. You'll just end up killing them in their houses. So it's a real warning to King James about the sort of king that he should be. And then we look at how Macbeth describes himself in this extraordinary metaphor. I'm in blood stepped in so deep that returning were as tedious as going o'er. Saying that actually I've killed so many people, to stop now would actually be tedious. I would be bored in my life if I stopped killing, and so I might as well keep killing, which itself might be boring, tedious, but it's better than going back. At least I'm committed. And he's exploring the psychology of bloodlust here, and again warning James not to be that kind of king, because he's saying to James, look, it will overpower you. Now, when we look at Lady Macbeth, she says, out, damned spot, about the blood she imagines on her hand. Well, she calls the spot damned in an attempt to stop her mind thinking that actually it's not the spot of blood that's damned, it's her own soul. And she's desperate for her own soul not to be damned. She's suddenly decided that she believes in God. She doesn't want to go to hell. And instead accuses the spot of blood of being damned. But let's look at that another way. The spot of blood itself was tiny. And Shakespeare is again suggesting that even a small amount of bloodshed will lead to further tragedy. And so this is a real pacifist talking here, somebody who's opposed to killing perhaps of any kind. When we look at this next quotation, will all great Neptune's ocean wash this blood clean from my hand? Shakespeare has Macbeth invoke the name of a god, Neptune, and suggesting that even a god wouldn't be powerful enough to get rid of the crime of this blood. And the most obvious interpretation here is he does this to show what a dreadful crime it is to kill a king. But if we take it a step further, linking it to all the other quotations, it's actually because it's blood, not that it's the king's blood. We can interpret this as Shakespeare saying any bloodshed will lead to further bloodshed, and nothing will prevent that happening. Once you start on that path of killing, you simply can't stop, and therefore the only safe alternative is not to go down that path in the first place. And then finally, who would have thought the old man to have had so much blood in him also suggests that killing a king, committing regicide, is such a terrible crime that the consequences will go on, or will have a far, far reach across time and events. And that's why the blood seems to be endless, to have so much blood inside him. It's a metaphor for the terrible consequences of what they've done. But if we continue the theme of these quotations, the reference to blood again suggests that Shakespeare again is being a pacifist, saying that the act of killing has these terrible, far-reaching consequences, and it's not that they've killed a king that's the big deal here. That's not what's caused the guilt. It's the fact that it's an old man. So killing anyone who's helpless is actually an awful act that will have far-reaching consequences and guilt. So yes, we can interpret all these quotations to be Shakespeare's way of saying the worst thing you could ever do is kill a king. Committing regicide would lead to incredible destruction, not only for the person who's done it, but for the country as a whole. But we can also see it as a warning to King James himself not to become this kind of leader. And he's basically telling King James, look, the moment you start using your power violently is the moment that you will lose control of your throne, lose control of your happiness, and lose control of your country. And it's a plea to his king to react in a measured way and not become violent. So I hope you enjoyed that interpretation. You have 6 quotations there you can use in almost any essay. Good luck with your revision, and thank you very much for watching.